right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. It is game day, Thursday. Hope everybody's having a phenomenal mid-December day. It is December 15th. 49ers will take their 9-4 record to Seattle against the 7-6 SeaHawks tonight on Thursday Night Football. Brock Purdy is supposed to start the game, despite the fact he's got the oblique pull. Joining us today, one of our favorites from Niners Nation, Kyle Posey, the managing editor for Niners Nation, and he's with us. Kyle, good to see you, man. It's been a while. How you been?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Last time we talked, you were hyping up the 49ers third-string quarterback, and here we are in December, and he's starting a game and potentially about to be a division champion, man. How's life?
Oh, man, life is good, and, it's amazing, the growth in the channel in the last 10 days as I've been getting, like, a lot of people, pat me on the back for saying Purdy back in July, but, I didn't – I'll say this. On draft day when they took him and, Mr. Irrelevant, and I was sitting there watching it, and the 49ers select Brock Purdy, I was like, oh, really? Brock Purdy, that
right.
kind of relatively weak-armed, kind of undersized, kind of narrow shoulders, Iowa State quarterback? Really? That's the guy? But then I said, you know what? Give John Lynch and his staff some credit and go invest an hour and find out everything you can find out about Brock Purdy and do the deep dive. And look at his film and look at his stats and read his Wikipedia and find out his story and try to see what they saw. Well, I seriously was like maybe 20 minutes in and I was like, I see it. I see what they see. And then I still thought he had kind of a weak arm, but I saw the efficiency and I saw the production and I'm like, I'm going to wait to minicamp. Then I went to minicamp and I thought, this guy is the most accurate quarterback on the field. I'm like, yeah, but it's minicamp. And I've made many mistakes evaluating minicamp. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to make any real crazy proclamations. I'm waiting until training camp. Then I saw it in training camp. Once I saw it in training camp, I thought, oh, this guy's legit. And I was just looking for the preseason to just kind of validate what I had seen up to that point and what I had thought. And then sure enough, he did exactly that in the preseason. And so I've been all in since that first preseason game. What was your thought on Purdy when you watched him this summer? You came in from Arizona. You were on the field many days out there. What did you think of him in camp? And what are you thinking of the season he's, put out there so far?
When I was watching him in training camp, I saw the offense move when Purdy was on the field. But it was because Jordan Mason, who was another rookie that we're probably going to get to, I never really saw it. But when I watch him play now, and this dates back to Iowa State as well, like there are things you can't really put on tape, right? Or I guess you can't really put in the box score. Like he's a competitor, and you need your quarterback to be a competitor.
Yeah.
And he just wants to win. He's going to will you to win. The play where he had, I believe it was last game against the Dolphins, where he's standing in the pocket. Trent Williams got called for holding on this play, but he breaks the pocket and he scrambles for like 12 yards for a first down and dives head first at the marker. Those are the type of plays that you need to make to win in the NFL. And he's moving around in the pocket. His pocket movement is insane. A lot better than you would imagine for a seventh rounder. The way that he's playing these last couple of games, he's a competent, above average quarterback, whether you're starting 1 year, 7 years, no matter what. So it's been pretty impressive. We had an article on the site. Will Hewlett, his quarterback coach,
right?
His arm strength improved over the summer.
I saw that. That was a great piece. Who wrote that? Was that you?
Akash. No,
it
was all Akash. He reached out to him. He talked to Will for about 15 minutes or so. And he said Purdy came to him and they worked in the offseason. And his average miles per hour was in the low 50s. And he got up to about 55. So to improve his arm strength, I mean, that's a big deal. But I think the biggest, maybe the best trait that he has for me is playing within the pocket and just being a competitor, right? Just giving his guys a chance to win down the field. I thought what's been most impressive to me, and honestly, when he's blitzed, Like he's looking to go up top. He's looking to go for the home run pass. And that is just opening up everything you could imagine for this offense. Like we're seeing Christian McCaffrey break these long runs. Obviously, Jordan Mason has had a couple long runs, but the way that he's opened up the field has been pretty impressive so far.
Kyle, I've been meaning to call you the last couple of weeks because I know you coach high school football in the state of Arizona, and Brock Purdy had this incredible high school career in that state. What is the caliber of high school football in Arizona? And are you familiar at all with where he went and his high school career and what he did there?
Oh yeah, he's a legend here, man.
Is he?
So Spencer Rattler, he's in South Carolina now, but he has a chance
Oklahoma.
to be a first-round quarterback. So I coached against Spencer. I coached against Slovis, the kid who went to USC and he's transferred
Keaton
a bunch
Slovis,
now.
yeah, Keaton.
Oregon had a guy. I think he's at Texas Tech now. I forgot what his last name is. But they churn out not first round, but D1 quarterbacks left and right. Jack Miller, who's going to start for the Florida Gators. I was on the team coaching him. So there's a ton of D1 quarterbacks just within the past couple of seasons. But going back to Purdy, he's played the exact same way in high school, played the same way at Iowa State. And what we're seeing when I talk about being a competitor, like all these runs outside of the pocket, like he was doing that in high school. And obviously he's able to out-athlete players then, but he's just making it work. And he's always kind of made it work. It seems like he's always done just enough to put his team over the top. And when you're looking at traits, when you're evaluating players coming out of the draft, just enough isn't going to be good enough in the minds of scouts. So that's probably why he's dropping, right? We're talking about, you bring up his name, the first thing you say is arm strength. But when you're able to move the chains consistently, when you're able to just create plays out of structure, like he's a great creator and he always has been. And that dates back to high school. So what we're seeing now is essentially what he's always been.
He had mono, I guess, in high school, and Iowa State, he committed to Iowa State. And then it sounds like maybe Nick Saban and Bama came calling after that. And instead of jumping ship, he showed loyalty to Iowa State. I mean, and maybe I've got that story wrong, but that's kind of the way I heard it. Do you know anything about his recruiting? Because, I mean, he was an incredibly accomplished, celebrated high school quarterback, despite the fact he didn't have huge size. But, I mean, it's not outlandish to think that Bama would have interest. Heck, the guy who's going to go top 10 this year coming out in the draft for Bama is 5'11", 6 feet. He's smaller than Purdy, Bryce Young. What do you know anything about how he wound up at Iowa State, or I know I'd heard rumors that, or at least talk that if he was offered a spot at Bama and just kind of turned it down.
I want to say he's either high 3-star or low 4-star. I forget exactly what his stars were, but I don't know. I know that Matt Campbell loves him, the Iowa State quarterback. I know that he talks highly about him, just like he was a superstar, ego, alpha male, all of those cliches that you need to be for a quarterback to be successful. It seemed like, or what Campbell said is they might not be able to get those 5-star athletes, but they have a 5-star culture. And Brock Purdy was like exactly what, just they wanted in that program. So in that sense, I feel like that's why Purdy is who he is. That's why players gravitate toward him. You see the 49ers players, they love this dude. Like they go all out for him. Whenever he's making plays, when he scored the touchdown, when he ran for the touchdown, I thought that was pretty telling, the way everybody, like Brandon Ayuk never celebrates with anybody. He just walks back to the huddle every time and he's going over to celebrate with Brock. And I thought that was pretty cool.
It's funny too. I've been in the locker room the last couple of weeks, and sometimes, if you go up to a guy, you get a feeling if a player doesn't want to talk about a topic or not, right? And sometimes they'll just say, "Hey, man, I don't want to talk about it." Sometimes it's just their body language as you're asking the question, or the look on their face where it's like, "Hey, man, I don't want to go there. I don't want to talk about it." These guys want to talk about Brock Purdy, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Brandon Ayuk, Debo, Kittle. I mean, it's amazing.
McCaffrey will have like 2-line answers for most of the questions, but if you ask him about Brock Purdy, he will give you a paragraph or he'll give you like a rant.
Yeah, I mean, these guys want to talk about this guy. It's quite the story. I want to ask you though, first on the NFL evaluation thing. Is it simply that he was 6 feet and change instead of 6'2" and change, or 6'3" and change? Because the guy, basically produced 100 touchdowns running and passing at Iowa State in about 30 picks and had a really good record at a school that doesn't normally have a really good record and did it in a Power 5 conference. He did a lot of the things, and these guys who evaluate are smart. They know the nuances of the position, so they can see him succeeding at many of those nuances. Is it just simply the NFL's personnel box is like this, and if you're outside of it, it's like you get marked down? I mean, why do you think he went in the 7th round, despite the fact he was a 4-year starter and everybody saw it, and he was like 3rd in the nation in completion percentage his senior year, completing 73% of his passes? How does he fall to the 7th round?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not 6'4" with a rocket arm, right, you're almost automatically eliminated from the first round conversation. He did have some of those head scratching turnovers. I think so. If you go back to his sophomore year, he was supposed to be a top 10 pick. Like, he was in mock drafts. You can Google this. He was in mock drafts in the first round after his sophomore year. We didn't see that step, that giant leap we see from most quote unquote 5-star superstar players. He was fine, closer to good his junior year. And then I think his senior year, he was just kind of the same guy. So being the same guy over the course of the 3 years probably kind of told us this is who he is going to be. And when you're taking a guy in the first round, you're expecting, like the 49ers are with Trey Lance, to turn over and be this guy that gradually improves and gradually gets better. So I imagine they saw a capped ceiling with Purdy, and then we get into the physical traits like the average arm, the height, and those type of intangibles. But speaking of intangibles, like we talk about the winner, we talk about the competitor, and that hardly ever gets factored in. And that's where it seems like the NFL may have made a mistake.
Are you ready do you feel like you know what Brock Purdy is as a player? Do you need to see a lot more? If you were mapping out the 49ers quarterback room for next year, where do you put Purdy in that discussion?
Yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea of who he's going to be right now. And as I said, and maybe it's easier just because I've been watching him for like 7 years now, but he's going to create plays out of structure. And that is a compliment. Like, we've seen the need to do that in Kyle Shanahan's system because there are 8 plays where he's going to make everything be perfect for you. And then those other 2 plays, he needs a quarterback to uplift the offense. So we've seen a couple times. If you remember early in that Dolphins game, he throws the ball down the field to Deebo Samuel. The pass is incomplete, but the rep is great. Excuse me. I believe on the next series, he draws a DPI against Brandon Ayuk, or for Brandon Ayuk. So those type of plays are consistent, I feel like, and he's shown that against Tampa Bay too. So that is a good thing. But I do worry that, like tonight, for example, what is he going to look like on the road for the first time? What is he going to look like in an environment that's king variance? Like, nothing ever goes normal in Seattle. So why are we expecting it to go normal for the 7th round pick, making his 2nd career start on the road with the division title on the line? Everybody listen to the way that we're talking about him right now. He's a 7th rounder, and we're talking about him like he was Trey Lance, a 3rd overall pick. So I would like to see him do it on the road, right? I'd like to see him perform under pressure. He's been in some cushy situations. The Bucs were not going to challenge the 49ers offensively, and the defense kind of suffocated the Dolphins. So they were never really going to be a threat. I do think Seattle is going to be able to score a little bit. So let's see if Brock can answer and take care of the ball. But as far as the quarterback room next year, I feel like we've seen this story time and time again where this goes back to betting on traits, right? I would still roll with Trey, but if he can't beat out Purdy, if he can't beat out Brock, then it's Purdy's job.
It's such an interesting discussion on so many fronts. I asked Brock, is there a quarterback that you kind of pattern your game after, or a quarterback that you've studied? He threw out 2 guys. He said Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. And I see a lot of Russell Wilson. I mean, it's interesting that he's in Seattle tonight. I do see a lot of Russell Wilson in Brock Purdy, in that I never felt like Russell ran to run. I felt like Russell ran for first downs or ran to free himself up to pass down the field. But Purdy doesn't have Russell Wilson mobility, but he has a lot more speed in 5 steps, kind of like a Mahomes. I hate to say this. I mean, this kind of like Joe Montana. in that
Uh-oh.
he's got that kind of escapability, but I wouldn't like Lance would beat him in a 40-yard dash, no doubt. And defenders would run him down quite easily if he really started taking off running. But as far as, that first 5 steps to escape, it's like Mahomes has it. And I felt like Joe had it. And I feel like Brock has it as well. But he compared himself to Breeze and Russell as far as guys that at least he studied. Is there a guy that, if I said, give me a comp to somebody who you're describing Brock Purdy to somebody who's never seen him play, and they say, give me a comp. Who's your comp?
Oh man, that's tough. So when you mention Russ, I actually think he does a much better job of playing within the scheme than Russ does. When Brock Purdy has scrambled over the past 2 weeks, it's been because he's had to, right? Russ leaves clean pockets, and shorter quarterbacks in general try to bail because they have a difficult time seeing over the line of scrimmage. It doesn't seem like that's an issue with Purdy. I guess it is. We only have a 2-game sample size, but we'll see if he has to live outside of the numbers in the same way that Russ has. But as far as a comp, I mean, it's going to be it. The first name that comes to mind is like a Doug Flutie type, where he's a crazy athlete. Those 5 steps you're talking about, quickness matters for a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Shanahan actually talked about it, foot quickness, where you can subtly manipulate the pocket and move around and just create space. He hit Debo and Kittle on 2 first downs that he really had no business making. And I think Flutie was very good at that. Obviously, people think Doug Flutie, you think this guy who's a great player, played in the NFL for a long time, but the way that he plays is very resemblant of how Doug Flutie won in the NFL. And it seems sustainable that he's able to do that too. So I'd probably go with Flutie as just the first name that comes to mind.
It's amazing we get this Thursday night Niners Seahawks game. I kind of think the more I think about the matchup, this may be the 2 best stories in the NFL this year. Geno Smith looked over. Nobody really considered him a starting quarterback. And look what he has made. He's made himself tremendous amount of money this year. And look what he's proven. And now you got Purdy stepping in as a 3rd-string quarterback on a championship caliber team. And where's that story going to go? And to me, it seems like these are the 2 best stories in the NFL, at least in my opinion. How do you see the matchup tonight? Niners are 9-4, Seahawks are 7-6. How do you see? I mean, Seattle's had a unique year, right? I mean, in some ways, the hay's already in the barn, right? I mean, they're going to have Denver's pick. That's going to be a top 5 pick. They're going to be a playoff contender in a year where they get a top 5 pick, and they've got 3 picks in the top 40, I believe, in next year's draft. So in a lot of ways, they're kind of playing with house money. But how do you see the season they've had, and how do you see the matchup tonight?
So nobody expected Seattle to win this many games, right? They were projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and because of the uncertainty at their quarterback position. Geno's been playing out of his mind, and people are starting to sense that the magic has worn off, but that's just not the case. He's actually has been one of the most successful quarterbacks since week 10. I think how they play offense is how you beat the 49ers defense. So they run a lot of play action. They take shots down the field, and Geno's a very good seam thrower. Like, he's going to hit you down the hashes, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. And I would not be surprised if this guy named Marquise Goodwin is heavily involved and is able to make the plays and just hurt the 49ers with their speed. So I think that will give the 49ers issues. Obviously, nobody's able to block the 49ers ever. Like, they're one of the best, if not the best, defense in the NFL, but the way that they generate pressure is insane. And I don't think people are aware of how successful Charles Omenihu has been this season. I tweeted this out. Call. He is 5th in the NFL in win percentage among all edge rushers. Like, nobody would have guessed that ever. He is a few percentage points behind Nick freaking Bosa. Like, the other names that are on the list, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, like, that's the podium for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's in the same conversation. And then adding Eric Armstead. So that front against 2 rookie offensive tackles will be the deciding factor. But if there are a few of those plays where we've seen it over the past couple of weeks, and probably even more so a month, where the 49ers occasionally will have a miscommunication on the back end. Maybe Talanoa Hufanga will jump a route where he has no business jumping, and that's how a big play happens. So if they are able to prevent that 1, 2, 3 big plays, then I mean, Seattle doesn't have much of a choice. They can't run the ball to save their lives. I'd be surprised if they even attempt to run over 10 times or so. So it'll put a lot of pressure on Geno in that sense. But on the other side of the ball, I mean, it's all about Brock taking care of the ball. That's honestly the only chance in my mind that Seattle has if it comes down to, a turnover, a fumble, an interception, a dropped pass on third down, a penalty, where the 49ers are shooting themselves in the foot. But they should be able to, come close to their rushing totals from last year. I know that the Seahawks have gotten better at cornerback, but I think the way that Brandon Ayuk's playing, I think that they should be able to take advantage of their aggressiveness. And McCaffrey and Kittle should have their way over the middle of the field too. The matchup is not good for Seattle defensively. It is a little bit better for them offensively, but you have Nick Bosa. That's the ultimate X factor. So good luck stopping him.
Yeah, KP, I'm glad you mentioned Omenihu because, man, that's a great trade by Lynch. That was a great trade. And not only was it a great trade to get him here, I talked to him a few weeks ago. He said last year when he showed up, he was like 272, 275 in that range. He says he's down like under 265 right now, closer to 260. And you can see that speed. And he's got the long arms. He's always had the motor. Great guy. Played at Texas and was really well thought of in that program. Omenihu, the Niners are getting the best of Charles Omenihu. And I think that's a major advantage. I think Seattle's tackles, Cross and the other kid from Wazoo, they're really good players. But now we're in the later part of the year, and they've played a ton of football. And I think those guys are getting a little gassed. And here comes what I think is the best collection of defensive ends in the sport. And I think it's going to be major advantage Niners. But you mentioned Omenihu. I got to ask you this. Is John Lynch now emerging as an equal to Kyle Shanahan? Is John Lynch the equal? Is he the same caliber general manager that Shanahan is a coach? I bring this up because look at this draft. No number one. You get Drake Jackson, Ty Davis-Price, who they still like quite a bit. Danny Gray, we'll talk about him in a minute. Spencer Burford starting at right guard most of the year. Kalia Davis, I think, is going to be a star next year. Wait for him. Samuel Womack. Then you got Purdy. You got Jordan Mason. I think all Niner fans remember what Poe did, the guard in the preseason. McCrary Ball, Quantrez Knight, Tay Martin. I mean, they may have when all is said and done in 2 years, when these guys all kind of fulfill their potential, this may be a 12-person draft class with a starting quarterback drafted with the last pick in the 7th round. John Lynch had a whale of a draft. And I think the Niners are set up beautifully to win this year, next year, and the year after. Similarly to the way the Niners' greatest run was after that 86 Walsh draft. They got Rice in 85. They got depth in 86. And then they were awesome in 87, 88, 89, 90. They won 2 titles, easily could have won 3. Maybe the greatest stretch of Niner football in the history of the franchise. Lynch, if you look at this draft class, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, especially the undrafted guys who are all starting to kind of bubble up, and they're coaching these guys up behind the scenes.
So Omenihu is just turned 25 in August, by the way. So the sky is the limit for that guy. I don't think it's fair to just limit it to this draft class. Think about all the moves he made, just like we talked about a minute ago. They acquired Christian freaking McCaffrey.
Yes.
And if you look at the numbers, McCaffrey, since he's joined the 49ers,
28 a game they're scoring.
Yes, he's put them over the top. I mean, he's been one of the best receivers as a running back. Debo, Ayuk now looks like the first-round receiver that we all thought he would become. Aaron Banks, Spencer Burford. So those are their 2 starting guards that they did not have to use a first-round pick on. One was even a day 3 value pick. To start this season, they signed Tayshaun Gibson off the street. He's been a valuable piece for this defense, hasn't missed a game. Talanoa Hufanga is 11th in Defensive Player of the Year odds right now. He is a day 3 draft pick, hasn't missed a game. Dre Greenlaw is arguably a top 5 linebacker in the NFL this year. He's a 5th-round pick. You can just go down the line of all these hits, and nobody ever
Aziz was undrafted. Kevin
and he's
Givens,
a baller too.
Undrafted.
Kevin Givens, it sucks that he got hurt because he was playing so well. They just placed Hassan Ridgeway on the injured reserve this entire season. They didn't miss a beat without DJ Jones, who was one of the better run defenders in the NFL. They just signed Ridgeway from the Eagles, 1-year deal. keep it rolling like nothing else. It's insane that the way they're able to bring in and evaluate talent that fits their scheme, that fits what they want to do. And I think that, yeah, Lynch gets all the credit in the world for that. Is he on the same level as Shanahan? You're talking to a Shanahan stan, so that's probably the wrong question. I don't know. I still don't think Shanahan gets enough credit for what he's doing. So think about this. He is going into Seattle with a third-string quarterback after beating 2 playoff teams. If he beats Seattle 3 in a row with Brock Purdy, when again, not just any third-string quarterback. This is the last pick of the NFL draft. Haven't really had a chance all season to work with him with the starters. So doing this kind of on the fly is just insane. And look at the points that they're putting up. Look at how they're moving the ball. It's pretty effortless, and it does come down to Shanahan. So I would still lean Shanahan, but just also all those names we just talked about, man, that Lynch has just brought in is pretty insane. What do you think? Who would you give the edge to? Because it's not an easy question at all.
I mean, I would always give the edge to Shanahan because I think Shanahan is kind of he's the mastermind. I think Lynch is unproven. But man, I mean, I think either Lynch has some genius to him, or Lynch does a really good job of listening to his scouts and kind of putting the whole thing together. But what they do in day 3 and after the draft, I think this last draft really helped them make the Christian McCaffrey trade. Why? Because they're not worried about not having a 1 or a 2. Because they know that they can find guys in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 after the draft, guys who fit their scheme, and so I think they got a lot of momentum going right now. As far as tonight goes, I totally agree with your assessment. I think the wild card factor tonight is Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin last week against Carolina, 5 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. There's a little symbiotic relationship there between Geno and Marquise. Also, you got probably Jimmy Ward on the other side. There's a major speed advantage for Marquise. I mean, Ward's going to muscle him at the line of scrimmage and jam him, but if he gets a free release at any point, he's got a huge advantage speed wise on Jimmy. I if you're one of these guys that bets prop bets, I think the prop bet on receiving yards for Marquise Goodwin tonight is 23 yards.
Already bet it.
Okay. I like the over on Marquise Goodwin yards, but I think this is a one-sided Niner game. I think, Seattle can't run it. Yeah. They're getting Kenneth Walker back. They can't stop the run. Raiders ran for 2 bills. Carolina ran for 2 bills. And they did it with Chubba Hubbard and Dante Foreman. Seattle's given up 4 straight games of 150 plus rushing yards or more. So I just think that the Niners are going to run it. The question is, and my question for you, would you, seeing the importance of McCaffrey, since the Niners got McCaffrey, they're averaging 28.7 points per game. That's since week 8. Would you, even though the division title's on the line, and obviously this is a big game, would you, I don't want to say shelve McCaffrey, but would you feature the young kid, JP Mason, who's running powerfully and strong against a run D that's hurt? I'd like to see a run dominant game plan, and I'd like to see a 60-40 or a 65-35 Mason CMC split of the carries. What's your thought on Mason? We've seen him the last few days, and what do you think the chances are that they feature him tonight?
So in my mind, they're going to use McCaffrey more as a receiver tonight. Okay. So he's going to be like that check down, that outlet for Brock Purdy, and he's still going to get his carries because why wouldn't you give him as many carries as you can? So last week in a blowout game against a team that is known for being a good run defense, McCaffrey still had 14 carries. He had 17 the week prior and then 11 before that. I think he's actually closer to that 11 to 15 range, and we see Mason finally get over 15 yards. He's slowly but surely crept up. I think he's gone from 5, 7, 8 to 11. So Kyle Shanahan is starting to trust him, and how could you not, by the way that he's running? So Mason's averaging over 5 yards per carry. He's running through tackles. He hardly ever falls backward. So knowing that, with everything you just reeled off about how the Seahawks play run defense, you would think this is a prime spot on a short week to give McCaffrey a little bit of rest, knowing that they have a mini bye coming up, and just to, for lack of better words, kind of run Mason into the ground. I think it's a really good opportunity for the 49ers offensive line. And Mason is very good. Mason was not an undrafted free agent. There's no way, based on his talent, based on the way that he's played. He's fast. He has wiggle. And as I mentioned, I think there's something to be said about falling forward as a running back, and he hardly ever goes the other direction. So he's done a really good job of turning 2 and 3 yard gains into 5 and 6, and sometimes even more than that. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Mason for the first time, or Mason have a season high in carries.
Hey, last one, and we appreciate your time, man. We got to get you back on the regular and start doing our weekly hits. If next year, what would you like the quarterback room to be next year? If they go on an extended run here and I don't know, run the table in the regular season and win a playoff game or two, maybe don't win the Super Bowl, but maybe make it to the NFC Championship game. That's an awful lot of success with your third string quarterback. Jimmy, I think, would like to be here in the future, even though, because obviously if you see Jimmy in the room, that he's a very popular guy in the room. He's the players really like him. The coaches, like him. He just played his best football. And then you got Purdy, and then you got Lance, and then you got Tom Brady whispers that he'd like to finish here in San Francisco. What does your quarterback room next year look like if Purdy can run the table in the regular season, let's say win 2 playoff games, but fall short of the Super Bowl? What is your quarterback room going to look like? What do you want it to look like in an ideal world?
Yeah, I think it'll depend on how much Kyle puts on his plate in the playoffs, right? Because as we know, that was not the case with Jimmy. He does trust Brock as much, if not more. So with all that said, I still think you have to fall back on the talent. I'm going to give Trey Lance every opportunity possible, and I'm going to let him compete with Purdy. And I'm going to bring in a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, just a veteran guy who, if I need to, if all else fails, he has to play, but somebody that, these young guys can glean information from, somebody that's played a bit. So that's what it would be. It'd be Lance, it'd be Purdy, and it'd be a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, Andy Dalton, like one of those type of names that I can get on the cheap for a 1-year deal, just to have somebody that's been there on the sideline and be another voice in the quarterback room.
Is there anything that could happen this year that would be so dramatic, Kyle, that you think the 49ers would go into a trade Trey Lance mode in the offseason? If Purdy goes on and just demonstrates that he's like, they're far better with Purdy than they were with Lance or with Jimmy, and they're putting up points and they just go on this rampage and they win, do they trade Trey Lance in the offseason? I'd be deathly afraid to trade Trey Lance, because I think that Trey Lance is going to be something special, and it may be 3 years from now, but I think that's coming. But one, do you think that's a possibility? And what do you think a Trey Lance in the open market, based on what he's done thus far, the good, the bad, the ugly, the injuries, everything, what do you think he's worth to a team that needs a quarterback and likes him?
I think anybody would give up a first-round pick for Trey Lance. We've seen,
I do too.
The market for quarterbacks, like there's always going to be a market, right? There's always going to, and Lance is still a giant unknown. Like we don't know who he is. He's only started a few games. If Purdy goes on the road and beats Philadelphia in the playoffs, it's going to be very, very hard for the 49ers to turn a blind eye to that type of performance. Like no matter what he does, getting a win, whether it's on the road against Dallas or Philly, or even a road playoff game in general, if they get to the Super Bowl with Purdy, then we're going to have some long discussions this offseason. But in my mind, I'm afraid of getting Joe Flacco'd, right? I know that he had a good postseason run, but how much better can he actually be? In Purdy's situation, like he has McCaffrey, he has Ayuk, he has Debo, he has Kittle, so he has all these weapons. But why wouldn't Trey Lance, who is more experienced, or eventually will become more experienced and has the physical traits that you want, be able to do those same things? So it's one of the most difficult conversations that they're going to have this offseason. And you would imagine the position that Purdy is in, that he is going to make it tough on them. So we'll see. I would still roll with Trey, though, knowing that that's who I am invested in right now. But if Purdy keeps winning, like it's impossible. It's impossible to say no to that.
It's been quite the story. What's your final score prediction for the night? And tell people, who maybe haven't gone to NinersNation.com, all the great stuff you guys have going right now today, going into the game, and what you guys have planned, for today, tonight, during the game, after the game, and what they can expect to find if they go to NinersNation.com.
Yeah, check it out. I have a nice little preview on the defense up on NinersNation.com right now. We preview both sides of the ball. Just a bunch of articles. Like I said, the Akash one where we're talking to Purdy's QB coach. Last week I interviewed Patrick Willis, and it was pretty cool. Just get a firsthand information from the Jim Harbaugh era and how he feels about these current 49ers. He was great. He talked about Nick Bosa and compared him, or the compare and contrast to Alden Smith. So we try to think outside the box, and then we're just going to continue to break it down and continue to see if Purdy can keep riding this wave, right? My score prediction is going to be a lot closer than yours, and I think a lot closer than a lot of people imagine. I think it's going to be 23-21. I think the 49ers escape with a win, but it's not going to be easy because it's never easy at Seattle. I know people remember the score earlier this year. I'm going to bank on Seattle not throwing a halfback pass in the red zone and that turning into an interception. So, as I said, Seattle's king variance, they always seem to get bounces. Everything always seems to go their way at home. But the 49ers are so freaking good. They have so much talent that I don't see them losing. And I'm not sure that they lose for the rest of the regular season anyway.
Kyle's going Niners to get the win, but the Seahawks to get the cover tonight in Seattle. I'm going 34-13. I just think 49ers.
Blowout City.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a statement game. I see two teams going in dramatically different directions. I mean, this Seattle team lost to Sam Darnold this year. They lost to Andy Dalton. They barely beat John Wofford a few weeks back. They can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. They are getting Kenneth Walker back. But I just think these are teams going in different directions. I think the Niners are peaking and getting better and building momentum towards what they think is going to be a deep playoff run, maybe a Super Bowl run. And I think Seattle, as I said, I think the hay's in the barn on this story. I think Pete's a success. Schneider's a success. Gino's a success. The year's been a success. And I think they're going to get decimated down the stretch. I think Niners get them this week. I think Kansas City gets them next week. I think the Jets beat them in 3 weeks. And I think they circle the drain and, and then still wind up with a top 5 pick and patting themselves on the back with, hey, wasn't it a great year? So
who's the game ball? Who gets your game ball tonight?
I'm gonna go game ball JP Mason. I think it's a JP Mason Niner O-line dominant kind of performance. I think the Niner O-line, Banks and Burford, and I think everything about the Niner O-line. I've got some questions as far as pass blocking. I have 0 questions and concerns on the Niner O-line as far as run blocking. I think they're going to pave the way for a big JP Mason day. I'm going to say JP Mason gets over 85 yards, goes for over 5 yards a carry. The Niners run it heavy, like 65-35 run pass split. Don't ask Brock to do too much and win this one going away. 34-13. It was 27-7 in week 2. I think the Niners, the margin's going to be a little bit more here. So
I like it.
I have the same 20-point margin, but I think the Niners will score a little bit more, and maybe Seattle gets a break. I think that there may be a turnover. There may be a turnover or 2 that goes in Seattle's favor. And despite that, I still like Niners 34-13. Kyle, great stuff, man. Always love rapping with you. You're a great follow on Twitter as well. Follow Kyle Posey on Twitter. Give out your handle one more time since we don't have it in the bottom there for people.
Yeah, no problem. It's KP_show.
Awesome, man. I'm just going to pay some bills, so I'll let you get on with your afternoon. But always a pleasure to catch up with you, man. Keep doing great things at Niners Nation. Tell Akash next time you see him, great job on that piece on Purdy, because I thought he did an incredible job on that. And we've been using Jordan Elliott, from time to time on the live streams, and he's incredible. You guys really have some very, very talented people over at Niners Nation. So keep it rolling, man. All the best.
Appreciate it, man. Take care.
Yep. Take care. Kyle Posey stopping by, the managing editor for Niners Nation. All right. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take a timeout right here. I'm going to play a couple of the commercials. We'll come back, hit the chat, and then get on our way. Niners go tonight, 5:15 kickoff in Seattle. Kyle thinks the Niners win, but the Seahawks cover. I'm thinking it is a Niner party in the Pacific Northwest. But we'll have a few more thoughts on that straight ahead on the Krueg Show.
Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, call and make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com, or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Tony Casera and the good people at Casera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Casera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com. Often imitated, never equaled.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, you know, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
Hey, Pasquale. Dan Cochimilio here for the Krueg Show. Just picked up for the very first time some of your New York-style Italian sausage here at Sam's Club in Arizona. My wife just cooked it, and I'm about to take a bite. Man, this is good. Pasquale, when you winked and said you guaranteed we love it, you're right. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Best sausage I've ever tasted. Thank you, Pasquale.
All right, I had to include Danny there at the end just because that one cracks me up every single time. Just Dan Cochimilio with his, the delayed response between when he tastes it and when he says it's good is just, it leaves you, what's he going to say? What's he going to say?
Hey, Pasquale.
There you go. Okay. Good live stream today. Over 250 people in the live stream. Little quick hitter today with Kyle Posey. We are on in the post game tonight after the Niner game. Almost immediately after, we'll do our post game on Talk Sport 2 in back to London immediately after the game. So I would say within 30 minutes of the final buzzer tonight and the fourth quarter, we're going to pop on for a live stream. Myself, Dan Cochimilio, Ryan Smith. We're going to invite Jordan Elliott from Niners Nation and get his thoughts as well if he has time later tonight. But good stuff today. And it was great to talk with Kyle Posey. He thinks the Niners win, but it's close, a low scoring game. I don't. There'll be no Deebo Samuel. So that obviously is going to hurt the 49ers. And the Niners have lost 10 of their last 11 games in Seattle, with 7 of those coming by double digits. In fact, their average margin of defeat in those games is 15.6 points. But that was a different Niner team. That was a different Seahawk team. And Brock Purdy has been listed as questionable for tonight's game. He is going to go. He's got the oblique injury. He's got a rib injury. If the Niners get the win tonight, they will clinch the NFC West. It will be the earliest they've clinched the division since 2011. What are we going to expect tonight? I think Nick Bosa said it best. He said, we're definitely expecting an all-out war, probably really similar to 2019, just really big stakes and two teams that know each other really well and don't particularly like each other. So there you go. Kerry Hyder is considered questionable. Ambry Thomas also questionable. By the way, Kyle Shanahan has had a different leading rusher in his first 5 seasons with the Niners. And if McCaffrey gets 43 yards, that will make it six different running backs that have led Shanahan's offense in rushing in 6 seasons. Carlos Hyde in 2017, Matt Breida in 2018, Raheem Mostert in 2019, Jeff Wilson in 2020, Elijah Mitchell in 2021, and now you've got you got Wilson sitting this year at 468, and you got McCaffrey at 426. So if he can eclipse Wilson, he will be a different leading rusher all 6 years under Kyle Shanahan. Kind of shows how the running back in a Shanahan offense, whether it be Mike or Kyle, is not a non-factor. It's a huge factor, but it doesn't have to be the same guy every year. Now, Seattle's defense has been limping to the finish line. They ranked 22nd overall in defensive efficiency, but if you just look over the past 5 weeks, they rank as the 5th worst in expected points added. And look who they faced. They faced some offensively challenged teams like the Tampa Bay Bucks, the LA Rams, the Carolina Panthers, the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Niners roll in with tremendous momentum. Seahawks have lost 3 out of the last 4. They have covered 5 of the past 6, and Geno's playing well. He's thrown for like 250 yards and 2 touchdowns in like 5 or 6 straight games. So, but Seattle's defense is 31st against the run. They're giving up 160 rushing yards per game. So I expect a run-heavy game plan. The Niners have the stingiest run defense in the NFL. They allow the fewest rushing yards and the second fewest total touchdowns to the running back position. The Niners defense has only given up 5 touchdowns in 13 games to running backs. So I expect the Niners to shut down Kenneth Walker, make Seattle one-dimensional. I do think Marquise Goodwin could have a couple of big plays against Jimmy Ward because he's got a huge speed advantage. I told you I liked the Goodwin over prop bet in receiving yards. I saw it at 23.5. I just checked it a minute ago. It's at 29.5. I still would lean over, but I don't love it as much as I did earlier in the day. But I do love the Niners to go up there tonight and kick ass. I really do. The 49ers, Seattle's been a house of horrors. The 49ers are one of those teams where if they lack motivation, if they don't show emotionally, they can lose any game. But the division title's on the line. They're not going to no-show in a house of horrors for them like Seattle. The Niners have tremendous momentum, and they're going in a different direction. They don't need Brock Purdy to win this game for them. They can run it some more and have Purdy just make a few throws. And defensively, I think they'll be way too much for Seattle. So I like the Niners. I'm going 34-13 as the final, and a big night for JP Mason and a big night for the Niner defensive line. And this might be the night, the one mismatch in this game that I see is Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross, rookie offensive tackles. Good ones, though. I mean, really good ones. Charles Cross is a tremendous player, going to be a great tackle in this league for a long time. Abraham Lucas is another good player, really solid player. These guys have started since week 1, but that was August. That was early September. We're now in mid-December. The NFL season's far longer than the college season, and I just think those guys are running out of gas. Now here comes Bosa, Ebukam, Drake Jackson, Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis, and the Niners are playing all kind of stunting games up front. This is going to be a jailbreak on Geno. The Niner defensive line is going to win up front, and the 49ers are going to win this game convincingly. Let's hit the chat. A couple people in the chat. I want to hit some of these comments in here. Let's see. We've got this one from MXA. It says Janoris Jenkins and Willie Snead activated. All right. Well, no Debo. You knew a receiver was coming up. Snead's a veteran. Janoris Jenkins is a veteran corner. I thought that was a really good pickup as well. You can never have enough quality corners, and Jenkins is a good corner. They call him the Jackrabbit. He's been, New Orleans. He's been in New York. He's been in 5, 6, 7 different spots around the NFL, but he can still run. He can still cover. And he's not, the moment won't be too big for Janoris Jenkins. So I kind of like those guys being activated. It kind of just shows the unbelievable amount of depth that this 49er personnel department has put together. And that's really been a huge key to their success. Vegas 49ers says heavy dose of JP Mason tonight, I think. He says CMC, Ayuk, Kittle, Jennings, maybe Danny Gray in the mix too. And the Golden Gate defense, go Niners. GD5 makes a good point. He says Seattle's 31st in the NFL defending the tight end. Maybe expect George Kittle to be big. The one thing with when you have your backup quarterback in there, Kittle's given them so much as a run blocker, but I think he could also make a number of plays in the pass game today, especially with Debo being out. What else do we got? Free Jordan Mason. We got Arthur says, get well, Trey. Arthur also says, let Brock Purdy cook. What else do we have in there? Ken H says, new subscriber, Larry, love the content. Hey, Ken, we appreciate that. Hey, by the way, if you're in the chat and you haven't been in the chat before or you haven't subscribed before, hit like and subscribe if you want to help me out, if you want to help out the channel. What happens when you do that? Well, first of all, it's free, so nothing happens. If you hit like, that kind of jolts the algorithm and gets more people to kind of find my content and my videos. So I would definitely appreciate it if you like the videos. That always helps us. If you hit subscribe, all that means is you'll get a notification on your phone anytime we're going live, and that will alert you that we're going live. You can also go to our YouTube page if you're on a computer and hit join, and you can be a monthly member for like $4.99 a month. And basically what we do is we give you a lot of our interviews that we do in the locker room. We give them to you beforehand before really we release them to anybody else. So definitely want to be a subscriber. You definitely want to be a club member if you can afford to be a club member, but we're putting out great content. I think we're coming on after Warrior games, Niner games, Giants games. And we got this guy right here who joins us from time to time, Dan Coach Emilio, who's fully clad today. Niner hat, Niner shirt, Niner flag draped over the couch. Where's Faith? Where's Buster? Are they nearby?
They're nearby, yeah. Faith, Buster, come here.
Let's see Faith and Buster. Danny's got two of the most beautiful dogs. Faith,
Buster.
Bath, right? Danny,
Sit,
she's cleaned up.
Yeah. Sit, Buster.
She was stinking, but Buster, look at that face. Buster's the man.
Yeah. Hey, I just I was scrolling through Twitter.
Yeah.
And I saw the show, and I saw you play the commercial with me eating the sausage, and I was like, I just said I got to jump on. I just actually had some sausage, all these sausage.
Oh, you're lagging for some reason, Danny. You're lagging.
Late.
Did
lunch.
you? Are you hardwired in today? Are you?
Am I?
Are you? Oh, you lagged a little bit there, right there. In that answer.
Yeah, I think I am.
Are you hardwired?
Any better? A little better?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Yeah.
You just lagged for a
we?
second.
Okay,
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Say what you're
Anyway,
going to say.
just had some
off.
Pasquale sausage and scrambled eggs. My wife was saying, "You want some Pasquale and eggs?" We don't even call it sausage. We just say, "You want some Pasquale and some
You want
eggs?"
some Pasquale and eggs?
And yeah, so I was enjoying that.
Wait a second.
And,
wait a second. I got to play it one more time. It's just so phenomenal.
So New York style sausage was
That's it. Here it is.
Hey, Pasquale. Dan Coach Emilio here for the Krueg Show. Just picked up for the very first time some of your New York style Italian sausage here at Sam's Club in Arizona. My wife just cooked it, and I'm about to take a bite. Man, this is good. Pasquale, when you winked and said you guaranteed we love it, you're right. This stuff is absolutely amazing.
I'll say this. Brock Purdy's not going to have that kind of time in the pocket. He's not going to have the same amount of time.
Wouldn't that be great to have that much time in the pocket? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first time I did a take or two, I said, this is good. And the sausage came flying out,
Well, here, how about this one? Arthur Henry. Bro, is that cooked?
Of course.
Yes, Danny is not eating raw
I'm not eating raw sausage. You got to listen to the spot. It says, my wife cooked some. And if you look close enough, you can see the color is cooked. Oh, yeah. Man. So, yeah, Niners tonight. I was going to look up the odds. I think a good prop bet might be Jordan Mason gets his first TD tonight.
You know what I think? You know who I like in this game? I think the 49ers take a deep shot with Danny Gray. I think they go up top with Danny Gray. Now, it may not be today. It may just be in the weeks ahead, but I'm pretty confident that Kyle Shanahan going into the playoffs is going to want to put Danny Gray, on a deep ball on film just to try to make those safeties respect the deep ball and create that room underneath. Claire Sard 49. Yes, Larry, I'm hard and wired. Thank you. Cheshire Cat. Larry's pretty damn easy to like. Ask my wife about that. Gosh. She would disagree. Johnny says, go doggies. Yeah, Danny's dogs are incredible. But yeah, we're, someone here said, who is it? D'Anthony Rodriguez, always great content. So we have been putting out some really good content around the Niners, around the Warriors, around the Giants, when the Giants make moves or don't. And we had like almost 1,000 people in the live stream the other night. We had approaching 800 people in our live stream when the Giants signed Carlos Correa. We were on the air on YouTube when the Carlos Correa signing came down. So tonight in the post game, we're hoping we can get, now we're trying, I don't know if it's possible. We're hoping there's a couple things that are on the line tonight for the channel. One, can we get 1,000 people in the room at one time after the Niner game? Yes. I think if Purdy has a big game and the Niners win big tonight, or if it's an exciting game, I think there's a chance we get 1,000 people in one of our live streams. Not 1,000 views. We've had, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 views. But if we could get 1,000 people at one time into the room tonight. So we're definitely going to go live after the game tonight. Join us on the Krueg Show. We're also at 8,467 total subscribers. And we're hoping with a huge night to get to 9,000 by tonight. We nice. Just got to 8,000 on Sunday. So if we could go from 8,000 to 9,000 in less than a week, that would be absolutely huge. So we're at 8,467. We have over 275 people in the chat right now. If you're not a subscriber, it costs no money. Just hit like and subscribe. And when you hit subscribe, every time we go live, you'll get just a little alert on your phone that we're going live. That's it. That's really the total of it. So it will alert you when we're going live. We go live, but we don't have a set time. Sometimes we come on after the Warrior game. If they play early, we come on earlier. If they play late, we come on later. We'll come on after the Niner games. But like when they're at home, we got to drive back from Santa Clara. So sometimes it's a couple hours after the game. Tonight, they're on the road. I'm not up in Seattle. I'm here in Walnut Creek. So we'll come at you as soon as we're done with our London post-game show. So probably right around 30 minutes after the game, 40 minutes after the game.
Yeah, so probably about 9 o'clock.
Right, but yeah, we have 8,471 total subscribers. So if you're in the chat right now, if you could become a subscriber, I would appreciate it very, very much, as would Danny and Ryan as well. And we're growing this thing. That's all I can say. Upward and onward, and doing as much good content as we possibly can.
Got a little breaking news also on Steph. Just came out 5 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
Shams Charania says Golden State Warriors All-NBA star Steph Curry has sustained a labral injury in his left shoulder and will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So that means he's going to miss the Christmas Day game against Memphis. Probably won't be playing the rest of this year, it sounds like.
Well, I mean, the rest of this calendar year.
Calendar year, yeah.
Yeah. Careful on that.
We're hopefully, he's.
It didn't sound like a tear, though. Wouldn't they have said tear if it was a torn shoulder?
Yeah, they probably would have said a tear. A tear would have required surgery, I would imagine. So that's the only news I see so far, but let's see if we get some anything from maybe some of the other local writers, whether it be TK or Slater. Maybe we'll get something from them soon.
G-Code Travels Vlog POV, and there's a handle, donates $4.99 in the super chat. He says, who will reach number 30 first? The Giants, Correa's first 30-homer season, or Kittle getting 30 receiving yards? Under 30 yards in 3 games, feed Kittle the ball. I think Kittle goes over 30 receiving yards tonight.
Yeah.
I think so. We got a couple on here. Cheshire Cat, are you a professional broadcaster? I don't know. You may want to decide for yourself on that one. I don't know. Do I sound like a professional broadcaster? No, I mean, I guess I am. James Cho says, love the content, Krueger. Good eye on Brock Purdy. Saw what you saw during preseason on Big B Purdy. Well, I am a believer in Brock, and I have been since minicamp, really. And I've been talking him up since training camp in a big way. And now he's doing his thing. And I'm glad to see it. I'd like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not. But I do I do think he's the real deal. I don't, there's a lot of people that don't believe. There's a lot of people that believe that he's going to fall on his face today. There's people in this chat that said that he was lucky last week against Tampa Bay. I don't see it that way. So we'll just have to, we'll have to, as Rick Barry used to say, let's agree to disagree. Tyrone B says, just subscribed. All right. Way to go. Always enjoy listening to you talk Niners. Keep it up. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
Cheshire Cat, always a step behind. Correa went to the Giants. Yes. Correa went to the Giants. Sam S. Larry, when do you think we'll see increased George Kittle usage? Is he just not the same tight end, or the offense has shifted from his usage to do more in the run game? Well, I went and charted and went through the entire game with a fine-tooth comb. George Kittle was so damn good in the run game as a blocker that I don't know that I would even try to use him in any other capacity. He is so good he had multiple big-time blocks. He had the key block on the Debo touchdown. He had the key block on the play before that. George Kittle is a dominant inline run blocker. So I think that's his greatest strength. But I do expect Seattle is 31st in the NFL at defending the tight end. I do think Kittle has a good night receiving tonight. Let's see what else. Got people. How about this one? Ricardo Alvarado. Brock gives the Niners the best chance to win at this moment. Yeah, there's just no doubt about it. Well, first of all, he's the only, as opposed to who? Josh Johnson? The question is, does Brock give the Niners the best chance to win, period, if everybody's healthy? That's the real question. And I suspect the answer is yes. And I know that's a huge statement because Jimmy's been to a Super Bowl, but I think there's things that Brock can do that Jimmy can't do. And I think Brock overall is more accurate than Jimmy. Now, Jimmy's got a little bigger body, a little bit more durable, I think. And, he's got a little bit better arm. He can flick it a little bit better. He doesn't have to step into his throws, where Brock truly needs to step into his throws. But, and you saw the ball last week to Ayuk, where Brock, because of the pass rush, could not step into his throw. And that ball hung. I mean, that ball really hung. We got this one from G Martinez. He says, Krueger, you lay in the 3.5. Yes, I am. And I've teased it in the past. I've money lined it in the past. I like the Niners to win and cover. I think the Niners, look, just remember these two things. The 49ers, since they got Christian McCaffrey, are averaging about 29 points a game. The 49er defense, since week 7, when they lost to Kansas City, has not allowed more than 16 points. So I expect them, I'm picking 34-13, and I feel pretty confident about that. So I don't think the spread's going to come into play here. But it is Seattle, and the ball bounces funny. There could be some turnovers. Seattle's won games from the Niners, Danny, on special teams. But I like the Niners. The one thing with the Niners is they won't no-show emotionally with the division title on the line.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity for them to get a win, get 11 days of rest between.
And also kind of, that's a house of horrors.
Yeah.
This is their opportunity to go in there and get a little payback.
Well, if you look at the teams they've lost to this year, Seattle just lost to Carolina last week there. They lost to the Raiders recently in Seattle. Seattle has a statistic. They're 0-3 this year against the NFC South and 2-16, I believe, against the South in their last, so the fact that Seattle is, they've overachieved this year, in my opinion. Yeah. They were predicted to win 5 games this year.
I think the over/under might have been 5.5.
Yeah, something like that. So, them sitting at 7-6, and prior to that, they were 7-4? Weren't they 6-2 at one time, or?
Well, and also they're coming off a game last week where Carolina jumped them early. They spent the rest of the game fighting and clawing to get back in the game. They wound up losing the game. They can't run it. They can't stop the run. They gave up 4.8 a carry to Hubbard and Foreman. Now you get the Niners on the other side, who had kind of an easy game last week. That game was really Purdy threw for 185 yards in the first half. he threw for no yards in the second half.
Yeah.
They basically just kind of shut it down at halftime, and they still routed the Buccaneers, who were the first place team in the NFC South. So now this week they get a Seattle team that I don't think is as good as Tampa, and they're coming on a short week, and they're coming off a game where Seattle expended a lot of energy and the Niners expended very little. Then you mix in the fact that the Niners offense is cooking, and Seattle, this is a good year for Seattle no matter what. They have a phenomenal rookie class. They found Geno Smith. They're going to have 3 picks in the top 40. They may wind up with the second pick in the draft because they own debt. John Schneider just took George Payton in that trade for Russell Wilson. So they made an unbelievable trade, and they found out Geno's a good player, and they introduced a lot of rookie players to their lineup. They've had a good year. Schneider's had a good year. Carroll's had a good year. Geno's had a good year. Seattle's had a good year. But they're going to circle the drain here. The Niners are going to put them away. Kansas City's going to put them away next week. The Jets are going to beat them in 3 weeks. They're going to wind up with like an 8-9 type season. And I think they're probably going to fall short of the playoffs. But it still will be a good year.
Yeah.
I just see 2 teams going in different directions. Niners are peaking, scoring points, not allowing points, running the ball with multiple guys. Seattle is limping towards the finish line, leaning on a number of rookies who are probably gassed at this point. I like the Niners big here.
Yeah. Did you already discuss about Hassan Ridgeway being placed on IR?
No, I didn't. I did see that. Tony here says, Tony Nagatani says, long-term question, which 2 players are most valuable for a potential 49er playoff run? Javon Kinlaw, Elijah Mitchell, or Trey Lance? Well, it's definitely Elijah Mitchell, right? I mean, Elijah Mitchell is a terrific running back. He doesn't fumble. Elijah Mitchell is definitely one of the 2. Then
They
it's
didn't place Jimmy on IR, did they?
No.
Okay.
So then it's a matter of Javon Kinlaw or Trey Lance. And I think the Niners announced they wanted to shut down Lance just to make it not a talking point. But I think they're still open-minded to bringing Lance back this year. But when you look at the 49er defense up front, especially with the loss of Givens and Ridgeway now, and they're pretty thin, I would say it's Elijah Mitchell and Kinlaw. Kinlaw is the one guy that can in the interior that can command a double team and still kind of hold his ground. The Niners are a team that I think Atlanta kind of showed several weeks ago that if you can get to 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 and you can run it up the A gap against the Niner defense, they miss DJ Jones. And Ridgeway now is being out. They need some heft in the middle to stop that run down the gut. So I would say if Kinlaw, who I saw in the locker room on Tuesday, if he's okay to return, my guess is it's Kinlaw and Mitchell and not Lance. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah,
because they can only bring 2 more back.
I think so. I mean, I do think the only way they bring back Lance is if he's available in the playoffs and Garoppolo's not. I do believe Garoppolo or Lance will be a backup to Purdy in the playoffs. I don't think you're going to go into the playoffs with Josh Johnson as your, number 2 available because, if that happens, they're pretty much done. But with Lance or Garoppolo as the backup, if something happens to Purdy in a playoff game, you still have a chance for your goal, which is the Super Bowl.
Yeah. What's your prediction score-wise tonight, Danny?
I'm going to say 31-13. 49ers.
Okay. So you're right there with me. I'm saying 34-13. You're saying 31-13.
I think Niners get 4 TDs and a field goal, and the Hawks get touchdown and 2 field goals.
Fantasy question. Half Dead says Brock Purdy or Geno Smith at quarterback for fantasy tonight. I'll say this. Last week I had this decision. I had Purdy and I had Brady. Yeah. And I went with Purdy, and I didn't win, but Purdy definitely outscored Brady last week. I'd go Purdy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
With
one
that,
thing I like about Purdy the most is I love Brock Purdy's ability in the red zone. I think when you throw with anticipation and you're as accurate as he is, you're in the red zone where the windows are really, really shrunken down. I think you need to be accurate. You need to be able to throw with anticipation. I think he does that better than the other quarterbacks the Niners have. And I think so. What you saw last week against Tampa Bay is they kept getting 7. It was 7. It was 14. It was 21. It was 28. It was 35. They're going to put the ball in the end zone. They're not going to settle for 3 nearly as much. In a way, I'd really love to see what Purdy looks like against a Buffalo or a KC with all the marbles, all the money on the table, so to speak. Because to beat Kansas City, you've got to score touchdowns. You can't score field goals.
right.
And I give you an example. When the Niners got the ball back 21-0 against Tampa with that roughly the 2-minute warning, against Jimmy, would they have scored? Probably not. And if they had, it probably would have been a field goal. With
Right.
Brock, he moves them all the way down the field. He gets a touchdown. He makes it 28-0. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's the difference. I think Brock is insanely competitive, very serious. I think they really found something in Brock, and I don't think it's accidental that he's playing this well. So I think it continues tonight.
To me, he a couple key plays he had that just showed me huge difference. One was he stepped. I can't remember exactly which play it was totally, but he sidestepped the rusher, and then moved to his right and scramble and threw it out to the to the sideline for a completion. And then his touchdown run up the middle was so to be able to read that quickly and know that he could get to the end zone shows you that he has game instinct. He sees the field. He's not taken off without thinking he gets in. Whereas Jimmy, if he saw that lane, even if he saw it, I think he would have hesitated a sec. And then if he took off, probably wouldn't have made it just simply because of his hesitation. 1/10 of a second, difference is a difference of getting clobbered or making it in. And Purdy has that feel. I mean, there is a certain level when you're out on the field and you're running and you're playing and you see it, it's instinct. And that's what he has. And you can't coach that. You just can't.
No, he's got a feel. I mean, a buddy of mine who scouts in the league called me the other night, and he's like, Krug, I know you've been touting Purdy for months. I've been watching you on Twitter. I said, yeah. He goes, you know what? At the end of the day, it's as simple as the kid's got the it factor.
Yep.
And I said, those non-quantifiable statements like it factor always make me uncomfortable, but he's spot on right. I mean, there's just no question. 916_49er. If we, being I'm sure the Niners, are able to run against them being the Seahawks, the floodgates will open. I agree. And Seattle's given up 4 straight games of 150 rushing yards or more.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, they're getting Shelby Harris back up front. That's going to help them. But Shelby Harris is not going to make all the difference in the world. The Niners are still going to have a lot of success running the ball in this game. I really believe it. And even if the Niners don't have success running it initially, Brock's passing will open it up, and then they'll eventually have running success. So, the other question is how good, is this Niner defense, pass defense down the field against DK, against Lockett, against Marquise Goodwin. I think they may hit a couple deep balls. I don't doubt that. I think Seattle may hit 2 or 3 deep balls in this game. I still think they're getting housed. I still think it's going to be a big time Niner win.
Yeah.
Couple others here. A lot of people are anti Tom Brady. Let's see. We got this one from Kenny. He says maybe it was Purdy that lifted their game like Peyton Manning did. Well, I don't think there's any doubt Purdy has lifted the 49ers game overall. The question with Brock Purdy is going to be, how healthy is he? How healthy is the rib? How healthy is the oblique? Can he hurt it any worse? Does he have to come out of the game at any point? I mean, I'll say this: if they have to go to Josh Johnson is a, mid-30s-year-old journeyman, never starter quarterback who, was local, and he's a nice kid and he's athletic, but I mean, he's not in any way close to Brock Purdy as a quarterback. So if Brock Purdy comes out in the second quarter, I guess anything could happen, but I expect him to play well. I expect him to run the ball a ton and win comfortably.
I think the emphasis tonight will be the Niners getting out to a quick start, getting up early, 2 scores, 14-0, change the complexity of the game, and then allow the 49ers running game to completely take over, so Purdy is not put in position to re-injure himself or aggravate, the oblique or the rib. So I think they're going to try and get to as many quick passing plays as possible, where it's quick release, so he's not, sacked and hurt. Because the worst thing the Niners can have happen is for Purdy to be out for an extended period of time. So they're going to guard that closely, and I think they're going to want to pound it down their throat, some quick passes, get in the end zone, and turn the game over to the running game, where, you may see only a few passes at all in the second half if they're up big enough, where you're only throwing on third and short situations, and using McCaffrey in those key situations, pass downs, and Kittle. I think Kittle and McCaffrey come up big tonight in the short passing game. I don't think if there is a long pass to Gray, it will be a quick release type pass in one-on-one coverage.
Well, we just got 5 new subscribers, so that very, very cool. We've gone
Awesome.
from 8471 to 8476 in the last minute or two. So we appreciate everybody who subscribes to the channel. Hit like and subscribe if you can. Matthew Mears says, Purdy taking a page from Jimmy G. If you have an injury and you win, everyone praises you and says, what a warrior. But if you lose, you have the injury as an excuse. It's genius. Well, I don't look at it that way, but I hear what you're saying. Dave Johnson says, Mason. I'd love to see a heavy dose of JP Mason.
Is Coleman up for tonight? Is he on the active 48?
You know what? I don't know if he's been activated or not. The inactive list, of course, doesn't come out for quite a while yet.
Yeah, another, hour and a half or so?
Maybe even more, right? It's
well,
only
it's
2:25. It ends at 5:15.
I think it comes out by 4, doesn't it? I think it has to come
Does it?
out.
Okay.
I believe it's by 4.
We got G Martinez saying the Krugstradamus show is blowing up. I'm telling y'all. Yeah, well, the show has been blowing up the last couple of weeks for sure. I don't know if it was my Purdy proclamation or if it was our bitching about Farhan's lack of movement or the interest in the Warriors or Carlos Correa's signing or what exactly, but we have gone from, we've been doing this since March. We just got to 8,000 subs on Monday or Sunday, and now we are approaching 8,500 on Thursday. So a lot of people have joined the channel, and I appreciate all of you. We've been working hard at it and having a lot of fun with it. Danny's a big part of it. Ryan Smith's a big part of it. Len Dempsey, who's you don't see on camera, but he's a big part of it. Ned Coletti, Cyrus, Frank Red. We really have had a great year, and it's been a lot of fun doing the show. So if you haven't checked out our live streams, hit like and subscribe and be alerted every time we do them. I say we're going probably, Danny, how many times a week would you say we live stream?
Averaging 2 to 3 probably during Monday through Friday. I think if you include Sunday, we're
probably
up there,
3 to 4 a week.
Yeah,
maybe
3 to 4.
5 or 6 if we're going like, we're doing some interviews as well for, with football people as part of our Niners coverage for Talk Sport out of London. And we're
during baseball season, we're up almost five nights a week, but football,
during baseball season, we go on over after almost every Monday through Friday weeknight game. We come on afterwards, and Ned Coletti joins us, and we talk a lot of Giants baseball. We get some of the beat writers on from time to time. And this year we're planning on growing the coverage. We'll have more details on that forthcoming. Also, I'm getting ready to announce a new partnership that I'll be doing covering the Giants. So that's also exciting. Not quite ready to announce that yet because the ink's not dry in the contract, but that is coming. So you'll be getting me, for all you people who love my positive attitude about the Giants, you're going to get it in full doses. Mikey 49ers says, probably the Jimmy injury blew up the channel, Larry. Yeah, it probably did, really. Somebody here, we've got Kenny saying that Purdy lifted everyone's game. Dave Johnson says, I'm the Purdy whisperer. I don't know about that.
As someone asked, can you subscribe on your iPhone? Yes, you can. If you go to the actual Krueg show where the logo is showing, there should be a red subscribe button. I believe it's red. I clicked subscribe on mine a long time ago. So, so just go to the YouTube, and in the search bar, just type in Krueg Show and should pop up the Krueg Show. It'll tell you how many subscribers there are. It says 8.48K subscribers. Just click on the subscribe button there for you, and that should do it. And then you'll get notifications.
Free.
Yep.
It's free. So it's free. We're going to put out good content, what we think is good content, at least on a regular basis. Mikey 49er says, and your content is top rate. I appreciate that. Calva says, Larry, fantasy question for you. Do you start Goff or Rodgers? Please mute Dan when replying as I'm facing off against him this week. Thanks. Goff against the Jets or Rodgers at home against the Rams? I'm going with Goff. I'm on Ross St. Brown, and Goff have got it dialed in right now. I'd probably go with Goff. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, Goff. Go with Goff.
Danny's like, go with Goff. 916_49er. Late night Larry is better than daytime Larry? Well, you never know. Dave Johnson says, Larry, real talk, Krueger. We've got this one from Mikey, but can you chat on your cell phone yet?
Yes.
Yeah, you can chat.
Yeah.
Chat away.
Right now he's got Rodgers starting. I'm looking for him to change that.
Francisco says, I do think Brock Purdy is lifting everyone's game. There's just no question. The thing with Brock Purdy is he sees it. The ball comes out on time. If you blitz him, he's got answers. He's got mobility. He's got accuracy. So, that's pretty much a lot of the key traits that you need. We've got this one from Woodpit 420. Larry, I've been watching you all the way back since the Fitz and Krueg show. Wow. That goes way back. You're talking about the late 90s, like 1997, 1998. Marcus says, big game tonight. Let's go. Dave Johnson says, rock with Goff. So we got other people weighing in here. Let's see. What else do we got? We got this one, Mikey Fortner. If you let Dan go off on fantasy, it'll be a 4-hour show. Yeah, exactly. MS says, I think your football content goes deeper than most talking heads or radio stations. I've always liked that since starting when I was listening to you at KBR. Well, let's just say this. I know it's sometimes a little esoteric, right? And sometimes I get a little deep in the weeds. And sometimes that's a little bit more than the radio audience wants. But I'm coming at it from somebody who used to be a quality control coach, scout, personnel assistant. And that's, I know I still have guys in the league that I respect, that were friends, that respect me, that ask me for my opinion and sometimes pay me for my opinion. And so, I take the time to really do breakdowns on these games and try to get the right answers, not because I'm trying to beat out, Grant Cohn or Jack Hammer, because I'm trying to kind of show my friends who work in the league that, I'm as up to speed on pro personnel as guys in their pro personnel department, or I'm as up to speed on certain college players as guys in their college scouting department. So that's kind of my standard. So, if it comes across as deeper than what you get typically on the radio, that's really why. Freaking Rombos. We always get somebody in here who's just going to put some terrible remark in there. I'm not reading that. I'm not reading that, Rombos. I won't block you, but I ain't reading that. How about this one? Will there be a silent count in Seattle? I don't think there's any question they're going to go to the silent count. I'm not sure what the crowds are looking like, but that's the loudest stadium I think I've ever seen. So I would definitely expect the Niners to go with the silent count tonight. We got this one from Bronco Freak. He says, the thing I've liked the most about Larry is he can still be negative about someone's play, yet still stays respectful to the player. I will say this. When you go into the room, and this is why I love doing the interviews face-to-face, when you're going to face somebody up, you're going to be more circumspect about your criticism than if you don't plan on facing them up. No player likes the sniper from the tower. Nobody likes that. If you're going to rip, at least make yourself available. So if guys want to confront you, they can. So when I covered the Giants all those years for KMBR, I did the post-game show. I showed up in the clubhouse every day between like 1:30 and 4 o'clock. And I just gave guys a chance. If they wanted to motherfuck me to my face, they could. If they wanted to complain about something I said, they could. So I just wanted to give them access to me if they wanted to get in my face and tell me I was wrong. Covering the Niners, I'll say this. The football players are a lot less dialed in on criticism than baseball or basketball players, but they still get it. They still hear it and they don't like it. But to me, I think you're going to be better at your job if you face a guy up, say what you got to say. The truth is the truth, but face him up the next day and give him a chance to have his say. So that's just my philosophy on it. I like to go into the locker room. It's their domain, but I like to get a perspective from the players because they're the ones who play the game. And too many guys who do what we do, Danny, who either on YouTube, radio, television, they give these strong, harsh critiques and they never show their face. And the players never get an opportunity to retort. And it becomes kind of like a very one-sided deal. So I like to go in there to just, go up to guys and say, hey, and if they've seen some of the comments that I've had and they want to say something to me, go for it. Let's talk it out. To me, I think that's the best way to do it. And then, some guys go in there and just hold up their phone. I'm in the locker room, but I'm just holding up my phone, videotaping somebody talk, and then I'm going to retire to my house and rip that person. To me, I'd rather go up to him and say, hey, I'm Larry Krueger. This is what I do. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm saying. And then like anybody who watches any of those Niner interviews that we do, a lot of times I'll just flat out state my opinion or my interpretation of what I saw right in the question. Hey man, you got burned. I saw in that first play last week. And he kind of ducked under and got to the quarterback, and then you recovered and had a much better rest of the day. Tell us about your day. And then the player will say, he got me in that first snap. And what happened there was I turned my head, whatever it was. But it's like, I will confront guys about their negative play or, negative thoughts about their play, but I don't just bury them. And I'm not going to kiss their ass in their face and then just bury them off to the side. So that's my philosophy. Everybody's got what works for them. That's what works for me. So, but I'm glad people enjoy some of that content. This is a good one right here. Bronco Freak. He says the thing I've liked the most. Okay, he said that. Wait a second. I just had that one. We got this one. We've got, let's see, Mikey 49er. For some reason it's locked. He says also the best way to connect with fans, which mainstream sports media don't, watch them copy if they lose ratings. I mean, Dave Johnson says all these players, they're men. Treat them with respect. They are all trying their best. Yeah, I mean, that's really the bottom.
You went mute there.
There we go.
There
Went
we are.
for a second. Here, I guess I'm locked on that one chat. Let me see if I can get rid of this chat. For some reason, the chat. Oh, there we go. Danny's now. All right, we are back. For some reason, we had Danny's back too. For some reason, we had kind of glitched out all right there at the second, and everything kind of happened all at once. So I do want to get a couple of more of these because some people in the chat are kind of running with this. Dave Johnson says they're all men. Treat them with respect. They're trying their best. Daryl says, do you think Brock will have a problem with the silent count in Seattle? No. Jose Ayala says Grant Cohn is a hard sniper. No, he's not. Grant's in there. Grant talks to guys. Grant, Grant. I'll say this: I got nothing but good feelings about Grant. He helped me get started in this. He supported me all the way through. He's going to be on the channel with me next week. G Martinez says, "Have you ever been mofoed to your face?" Yeah. Yes. Jeff Kent and I basically almost tangled in the Astros clubhouse a few years ago because Jeff came out at like 3:00 and was talking to us. And that's where he's like, you people in the Bay Area are so stupid to pay these housing prices and all. And I put it on the radio because he was speaking it into a microphone and he got booed. And then the next night or the next afternoon, I went in there and he's like, you put that on the radio. I said, yeah, we have a thing called a microphone, Jeff. When you speak into it, that's where it goes. See the mic flag? See, it says KMBR there. That means when we gather that sound, we put it on the radio. That's the way it works. Sorry. And he just grabbed me by the shirt and I grabbed him and we're standing there and guys are walking up. But other than that, I really haven't had too many problems at all. We got this one. Antonio Sosa, Krug, I think you would agree that Purdy probably has the best footwork in the pocket out of the 3 Niner quarterbacks by far.
Yeah.
And where it really shows is in the quick game, the short game, where every foot, every step means so much. Purdy's footwork is impeccable in the short game. And if you slowed it down, it's what I would just call a straight textbook. And you can't have a wrong step in the short game or the ball doesn't come out on time. Brock Purdy, the ball comes out on time. And I think for that reason, there's a lot of people, including Kyle Shanahan, that probably trust Brock Purdy a lot now, even though he hasn't played very much. He gives you the feel. And I forget who said it. Somebody said it this week. It's like you're watching a veteran quarterback.
Right.
That's what really stands out.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's very, very skilled back there.
Claire Sard 49. Larry, I could never curse out your beautiful face. Oh, thank you. I don't know about beautiful face. Let's see. Jose Ayala. Yes, we all learned that call is that Kinlaw has bigger balls than Grant. That whole thing got out of control. That thing got out of control. I'll just say that. I don't point fingers, but that thing got out of control. And if you go, we did an interview with Kinlaw as well. It probably got 1/1000th as much traction as Grant's did, but go on our YouTube channel and look at the like 15-minute or 10-minute interview that Ryan and I did with Javon Kinlaw. And we talked to him about Eric Armstead and his development and where he needs to improve. And he was phenomenal with us. Absolutely phenomenal. So, I all I can say is that deal with Grant kind of went out of control there. What else? We got a bunch of people in the chat right now. My goodness. And everybody just keeps, the thing just keeps growing.
Getting closer to game time.
Dave Johnson just says Grant shows his face. Yeah, I got nothing but respect for Grant. I really do. I got respect for Grant. I got respect for Lowell. I think, and I'll say this: there are people that have one image publicly, and when you get to know them privately, you get to know them differently. And I've gotten to know Grant privately. He is a really good guy. That's all I got to say about it. He's a really good guy, and he's helped me immeasurably. And, all I got to say is, you ask me what I think of him, I think he's a really good guy. I really do. And I've seen him be very, very kind to a lot of people. Robert Jorgensen, how happy are you with Carlos Correa and the Mitch Haniger signing? Danny, how happy are you?
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. I don't even worry about the 13 years. A lot of people are talking about the whole thing, 13 years, 40, 41 years old, whatever. If you look back at the old days in the 60s and 70s, Willie Mays played till he was 42. Go look up Willie Mays' 39-year-old year and 40-year-old year. When
early 70s? You're talking about 1970, 71,
1971,
something like that?
they won the division. Willie Mays was the starting everyday center fielder, and he hit 18 homers, I believe, that year. The year before, he hit 28 at 39. Hey, if Correa gives you 18 home runs at age 38, 39, I mean, he's averages right in the low 20s right now. It's not far off. Plus, guys are learning, look at the 70s. That was 50 years ago? Look at the advancement in supplements, natural supplements. I'm not talking illegal stuff, but natural stuff, the training, everything that's vastly improved. I don't think getting production out of a guy at 37, 38 is too much to expect. Look at some of the guys that the DH for Cruz, Nelson Cruz. Didn't he hit 40 homers recently at age 40?
I mean, he had a really bad year last year, but
yeah,
I think
last year,
it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
But he was close to 40, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he hit. So, is he going to be a shortstop at 37, 38? Maybe not. Maybe he's a DH, but,
I expect the deal to look bad on the back end, but that's all right.
I think you're going to get 9 productive years out of him. And for that, I mean, you
saw Dog ripped it.
Yeah, I know Dog ripped it, but that's the market right now. And the thing about this is, if the Giants came away empty and didn't get Correa and somebody else,
we would have been ripping it.
Plus the fact, when are you ever going to get a star? Now you've got a star that you can attract other stars. San Diego had nothing until they got Machado. Okay, they got Machado. Now they got Bogarts, and they got Soto to be traded there, and Tatis was traded to them as well. So Tatis came up, from I think it was can't remember what organization Tatis was in. White Sox.
Yeah, White Sox for big game James Shields.
Yeah.
What a terrible trade that was.
So
Rick Hahn, I believe.
But you got to start somewhere. So as the years go on, maybe the Giants are able to track that next big star, and then and then it grows from there. So
they have money.
Yeah,
they have plenty of money. Follower of the Way says, "I don't know your names." All right, I'm Larry Krueger. That is Dan Coach Emilio, and this is the Krug Show. My channel. Danny's on it. And Ryan Smith
hit the like
joins
and
us
subscribe
as well.
button there, follower of the way.
Hit like and subscribe. Absolutely. How about this one? Jordy A. What player would you compare Purdy to as his potential ceiling? Ooh, that's a good question. I'll say this. I asked him who he would compare himself to of all the players that he saw. And he said that, I shouldn't say who he would compare himself to. That's going to make him sound like he's arrogant. I said, who do you kind of model your game after? What players did you watch along the way to kind of steal a little bit from them and how they played the position and adapted to your own game? He said Drew Brees and Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I see a lot of Russell Wilson in Brock Purdy. I love Russell Wilson's accuracy. I love Russell Wilson's competitiveness. I loved his mobility. And just the way he just seemed like he was never out of a game. I guess he reminds me a little bit, maybe like a cross between a Kirk Cousins and a Russell Wilson, maybe. What do you think, Dan?
I like the idea. I like what he said. That's kind of how I see him. Breeze, Russell Wilson. He's not a whole lot different physique than Drew Brees. Very, very similar in stature. The fact that they both come from, Brees came from the Big Ten with Purdue, and Iowa State, a Big 12 school, very close in proximity. And, the Big Ten's a little tougher than the Big 12, but still Big 5 conferences, right? Power 5 conferences. Brees was he a 4-year starter or 3-year at Purdue?
That's a good question. He played for Joe Tiller. They put up all kinds of points. I would say 3, but I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Purdy's arm. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't have the greatest arm strength. They said the same thing about Joe Montana. Montana's arm, he was accurate, and he was
threw a very catchable football.
Montana did not have a laser at all for an arm.
You hate to compare him to Montana.
Yeah, I'm just saying arm strength.
No, I know, but
yeah,
I found this myself watching Purdy, and I'm like, man, I hate to compare this kid to Joe Montana, but he's got a lot of Joe's same traits.
Yeah.
Joe was very accurate. This kid's very accurate. Joe was not a great interview, kind of quiet. This kid's not a great interview, he's kind of quiet. Both of them had this steely resolve and competitive fire that's like second to none. Both of them, had escapability, like 5 steps of elite quickness to get away from the rush.
Yeah, Joe's
both of them had durability concerns because of lack of stature. Joe was a little on the thin side. Brock's a little on the shorter side. It's a great guy to be compared to. I'll say that. Because, Joe is Joe, and there's only one Joe, but Brock's playing well. Fascio85 says, Krug, you are the man. Been listening to you since the Gary days. You always keep it real. Try to. Randy Daytona. Is that his real name? He says, Lil Cone lost me when he said he liked Peter Ducey. All right, let's not go political. My God. No politics in the Krug show.
Yeah, I'll say this too about Joe Montana.
Oh, I thought you were going to get into Peter Ducey
and Tom Brady. Did anybody think Joe Montana and Tom Brady in their rookie year was going to be what they became to be? No, nobody did.
Joe didn't Joe. Joe was a 3rd-round pick. Russell Wilson, 3rd-round pick. Tom was a 6th-round pick. Brock's a 7th-round pick.
Joe didn't really play until 1980. I think 79 he didn't play at all, did he? Or maybe a little bit?
No. Bill Walsh absolutely took care of Joe Montana, and he was a skinny kid who didn't know the offense. He liked his traits, but he let DeBerg take those hits for 2 years. Joe was a product of the 79 draft. He wasn't an everyday starter until the 81 season.
Yeah, he had that big game, that incredible comeback against the Saints in 1980. They were down 35
in 80, 38-35.
Yeah, and they come back. And that was kind of his like, hey, I'm Joe Montana.
Right. This guy's got some magic to him.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of Joe Montana. And then what do we know? The next year he comes in and they win the Super Bowl. So, we never look back. So who knows where this goes with Brock. So I will say this, Brock probably is more ready in his rookie year than Joe was in his rookie year to play. just because, Joe he was, like you said, he was skinnier, and the team was not that good. Well, the team was crappy. It's like the team was horrible, and he was going to get killed back there. So I think we'll see where it goes, but I'm not comparing at all Brock Purdy to Joe Montana. Believe me.
But there are some similarities.
Yeah. There is
and that's okay to point them out. Mikey 49er says 222 likes. Hit that like button. So hit like and subscribe. We're at 8,490 subscribers right now. And we're trying to get to 9,000 before the end of the week.
In fact, we're not going to leave. We're going to just stay on.
Stay on. If it was up to Len, we would just go on straight through the football game. He's like, why don't you do an in-game thing? And I'm like, you know what, Len, I gotta watch the game. And plus I got my kid home from college. So, I'm gonna make some dinner and watch the game with my sons today. And that is truly when I'm at my happiest, when I'm sitting there I got 3 boys and a daughter, and my boys will want to watch the game tonight. And a lot of times I'm at the stadium or I'm in the studio somewhere or whatever, and I can't watch it with them. So tonight I am going to be watching it from home. We're going to do the post game immediately after the game, after we do our London post game. And, we're hoping we get 1,000 people in the room tonight. We're hoping we're get 9,000 subscribers by the end of the night or the end of the week. Jim Thurkill says, "What's up, Larry? What's up, Jimmy? How are you?" 916_49er. Hit the like and subscribe, everybody. It will change your life. Wow, I don't know about that. Change your life. But yeah, hit like and subscribe and support the channel. And then also I should mention, I don't have one of the shirts on right now, but we do a commercial for Caceres, and they're housing the Krueg Show t-shirt. And we have some Krueg Show t-shirts. So they're $25 plus shipping. If you, I just ordered like 50 more shirts in size large, XL, double XL, maybe even a couple triple XLs. And I've had a bunch of people reach out to me on Twitter, and so they're not in yet. They'll be in the next week or so. But if you would like a Krueg Show t-shirt, and I know you do, as I said, they're $25 plus shipping, but just DM me on Twitter your address, and I will contact you and get that shirt sent to you. As I said, they'll come out in the next week or so, week to 10 days. We should have all the new Krueg Show shirts, and they're cool, and it's a fun way to support the channel. And I know I appreciate it. We don't make a lot of money on it at all, but it is cool that we got the Krueg Show t-shirts, and we got a whole new batch of them coming in. So if you want a Krueg Show t-shirt to support the show, DM me on social media or somehow contact me and get me your address, and we will get one in the mail to you. And I guess we'll figure out how to do the payment. We'll either Venmo or something. I'll give you my Venmo address, and we'll go from there. Al Perez says, "I see Chad Pennington and Brock Purdy." It's hard to say with Chad Pennington because he's got hurt so early in his career. I feel like we never really, I remember Chad Pennington being Purdy-like at Marshall. I don't remember seeing tons of Chad Pennington in the NFL. I know he got beat up pretty bad behind a bad offensive line.
Pretty decent years with the Jets one year where he made the playoffs, and but it was a short window. I mean, he wasn't, that great of a quarterback for a period of time. I just remember the one big year where they made the playoffs with him, and there's a lot of talk about Chad Pennington, and then now that's a guy that, in my view, Purdy to me has a better arm than Pennington.
I think so too. We've got a guy in here who said that Joe, G. Martinez says Montana had better footwork and better anticipation. Dave Johnson says Montana had a better arm than Brock. I'm not sure about that. I would say they're very comparable. Jim Thurkill says, "Larry, where's Gary Radnich? Is he still on the radio?" Gary's not on the radio. Gary's taking care of his family, as he said he was going to. He said, "When I'm done, you're not going to hear me. I'm not going to be hanging around." And he's been a man of his word. He's he's not hanging around. He's taking care of his family and enjoying his wife and children, I'm sure, living right here in San Francisco. We've got this one from Dave Johnson. Purdy is a playmaker for sure. G. Martinez says Purdy is serious about football and God. I haven't heard him mention God that much, but I know he's very serious about his football. We've got this one, Danny. Jordy A says Purdy seems to have that unmeasurable it factor. Yeah, I mean, that is it. It's like he's got it. There's so many people, and I think we're all in this category. We can't necessarily verbally describe what a great quarterback is, but I can tell you when I see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't you feel like the same way, Danny? It's like,
oh yeah,
it's like it's hard to verbally put into words exactly what makes a great quarterback a great quarterback. But it's like when you see it, you know it.
Oh yeah, and that it factor. I played around a lot of talented people in my day, and there is a difference between guys that have the it factor versus the guys that have so much more talent, but they don't have that it factor. They just don't put in the time. They don't give you the confidence that they're going to get the job done. Those guys with the it factor, Brady's one of them. There a lot of times there are guys that didn't get the top billing, coming out of high school, weren't the highest rated guy coming out and getting the scholarship. They were under recruited. Aaron Rodgers, another guy, he didn't have anybody but Cal. If you remember the story about Rodgers going to Cal, Coach Jeff Tedford went to Butte College to recruit Cross, the tight end.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, you're right. I think I've read that story.
Yeah, he went to see, and Cross came, and then Rodgers had nothing, and so he went to Cal, and he was, guys that have that talent, they get a little overlooked because they're not like, they haven't maybe peaked. I mean, Rodgers was a skinny kid that had arm talent, but nobody was recruiting him. So yeah, it was Garrett Cross at Cal. So you look at that, he comes in, he gets the job done. Then he gets stiffed on, draft day by the Niners, and he sits in the green room till pick 24, I think it was, with the Packers. I mean, that was embarrassing. And it was like, because of that it factor, now that would have destroyed some guys without the it factor. But a guy with the it factor says he holds on to that, and it feeds him, it fuels him. Same thing.
Did you ever
Purdy.
see the Dennis O'Donnell interview?
I did not see that.
Dennis O'Donnell did an interview of Rodgers that night. He put a mic in front of his face. He's like, "Are you disappointed that the Niners didn't take you?" And he said, "Not as disappointed as they're going to be that they didn't take me."
Yeah,
and it's
that
like,
just tells you.
Absolutely. To me, the Niners totally fucked that up. I mean, and I don't know who screwed that up. If it was Mike Nolan, if it was Mike McCarthy, if it was Greg Knapp, the late Greg Knapp, who I love like a brother. But I mean, somebody screwed that up. Rodgers completed 16 in a row against one of the greatest college football teams of all time, the SC Trojans, in the Coliseum on like a 107-degree day. Yeah. And they drafted Alex Smith out of a gimmicky offense at Utah. I mean, I lost my mind that day. I was literally on KMBR doing the draft coverage. We're in the room, the conference room across the hall. And when the Niners took Alex Smith, I put my head on the table. And I remember Bob Agnew's like, get up. They're going to be in here in a minute. And I'm like, and he's like, Krueger, get your head off the table. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm just shaking my head. It was like a minute, 2 minutes. Finally, he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm okay. They're not." And it was like, I knew Rodgers was the guy.
Gosh.
I said it. I knew he was the guy. I said it on the air for leading into it. I had his agent on the show the night before. He wanted to be a Niner.
I know.
The Niners at that point lacked personnel evaluation skills, and they lacked the courage of their own convictions. They didn't have either. Ironically, Mike McCarthy winds up in Green Bay, and his one Super Bowl win was because he fell into Rodgers there.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin F says, "Are you guys streaming tonight?" Yes, we are streaming tonight.
You got this.
This
here
is
too.
not it, but
Look
we
at
are
that.
streaming tonight. Lockwinder Raj Singh says, "Here's $20 just for the hell of it." Lockwander, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Big money music. This has become my favorite 49er channel to watch. Larry has plenty of knowledge and honest takes. You know what? I love that. I love hearing that. Al Prez, today, December 15th, is Joe Montana's day. 25 years ago, number 16 jersey was ceremonially retired.
Oh, that's why Will Clark posted the play on Twitter.
Oh, is that why?
I must be, because I was looking on Twitter and I'm like, Will Clark just posted the play, the catch. And I'm like, well, that's nice. I mean, what prompted that?
Antonio Sosa, Danny says, Joe Montana equals great footwork. Just saying. Yeah, there's no question. Footwork's a big part of it. Kenny Vanegas. Sorry about that. Kenny R. Vanegas. Purdy. They will not be chanting Purdy tonight in Seattle. Pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that pretty much does it. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of the chat here. We got this one. Larry, do you still keep in touch with Gary? I've reached out to him a couple times. He's a very private guy at this point. J Mella 13. 49ers clinch the division tonight. Kenny says no team is beating this defense. I agree. I mean, I'll say this. The 49ers are on their third string quarterback. Most teams on their third string quarterback, if you walked into their locker room, there would be guys in the corner of the room saying, yeah, we got a big game tonight or a big game this week. But in the corner of the room, they'd be saying, man, the injuries have killed us. And it's just sad. I mean, it's amazing what we could have become, off the record, of course, but it's amazing what we could have become if we hadn't been so injured. That's the kind of stuff you would hear if they didn't believe in their quarterback, but they do believe in their quarterback. So you don't hear any of that. Seriously. This one's good. Claire Sard 49. Any word yet on the Krueg Show bed sheets?
You can have.
And for $19.99, they come from a tiny little place, and
Giza sheets.
And I'm Mike Lindell. And oh man, how about this one? Cheshire Cat. He says, "Life is short. Enjoy it with the meaningful relationships that you have."
Yeah, and there you go. Go watch the game with your kids. You're a
Cheshire
cool
Cat donates $5, Danny. He says, go watch the game with your kids. You're a cool man, and I'm sure they are waiting for you. Oh, yeah. Well, they're not waiting for me right now, but yeah, I will be. I got one son who's working at the Christmas tree farm, and I got another son who's right now making a microwave pizza that he wants me to share with him. And then I got another son who is home from Cal Poly, and he just got me down on the Niners minus the 3.5. So there you go. Drew says, here's $4.99 just for the hell of it. Just $4.99.
There you go.
Kenny says, God is good, you guys, and Brock Purdy is our franchise. Wow. Mikey 49er, Purdy is very serious about his faith, but doesn't bring it to the NFL. He did in college. Good for him. Good for him. I think that's got to help him. I mean, that's another factor. I kind of think boys will be boys. Like I see guys, a 25-year-old or 22-year-old football player at a strip club. I don't think anything bad about him. Why? Because I remember what I was doing when I was 22, and I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But there is something to be said for, Purdy's not in the club. Purdy's probably at home, studying the game plan. And do you want the guy who's in the club making it rain, or do you want the guy who's sitting at home, getting ready to go to bed, reviewing the game plan? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not going to judge anybody for what they do away from the field, because there's plenty of guys who I'm sure who are great players who lived in the club, but I don't think you can put a guy down for being serious about his craft. They asked Jimmy G what he thought of Purdy, and do you remember what he said? He's like, he's very serious about football. That's a good.
Yeah.
I think that's a great trait.
Oh, it's
Drew
a heck of a
says
trait.
Purdy's got great pocket feel. Dan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I love his pocket feel. I love how he quickly sees the rush and evades it. And, you're not going to get it all the time. But I'd much rather – I feel more comfortable with Purdy back there against a blitz than I do with Jimmy.
Who fills Debo's spot at wide receiver tonight?
I think we're going to see, Jennings quite a bit, and I think we'll see some Danny Gray tonight.
Yeah, maybe even a little Ray.
Yeah,
Ray
could be
McLeod.
a little Ray.
Jim Thurkill, Danny. Purdy doesn't care if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. He's going to beat your ass. He's just a winner. That's the Dan Campbell line from Hard Knocks this summer. I don't care if you got 3 toes and 1 ass cheek. I'm going to kick your ass. That one makes me laugh. Oh, man. We're having fun. Let's see here. Do we have any more? Can we get to the bottom of this chat? I don't know. I mean, how about this one? G. Martinez, I believe in you, Krugstradamus. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Appreciate you, G. Jim says, Larry, I think Kyle Bowler cost Rodgers that pick. Bowler was a bust in the same Tedford offense. Did I ever tell you my Kyle Bowler story? Kyle Bowler, I talked to his agent. His agent was a friend of mine. I was having him in studio that night. The agent calls me 1:00 in the afternoon. I ask him the obvious question. Where do you think Kyle's going to go on Saturday with the draft coming up? And the agent gave me a weird answer. He gave me this answer, Danny. He goes, hey, man, we're just going to see who falls in love with him. And I'm like, okay, I understand where you're going there. So now that's at like 1:00 in the afternoon. Now I've got Bowler on. He's in, I forget if he was in studio. I think he was in studio. Kyle, any indications where you're going to go this Saturday? What are you thinking? You got any feel for it? And he looks at me, and with this vacant look, he says, we're just going to see who falls in love with me. And I'm like, oh, my God. So now you're just parroting your agent's,
he got the memo,
line. And I thought to myself, maybe this guy's not the sharpest guy. And I think that was the case. Cheshire Cat says $5. Go watch the game with your kids. You're cool. Okay, we already read that one. All right. Well, I think that probably does it for us.
I was looking here on Twitter, Mike Brown, a little clip. He must have went off last night.
Oh, yeah. Did you see Mike Brown last night?
I'm just looking at it. Did he get tossed?
Oh, yeah, he got tossed. I mean, I thought he was gonna physically assault the ref.
Oh, my
Mike
God.
Brown's the most chill guy I think I've ever met.
Oh, I saw some highlights.
Glued last night.
They were hammering Fox, DeAndre Fox. He went up for one shot toward the end of the game, and he got hacked in the face, and he was bleeding, and they didn't call a foul. And it was just like, what are they doing? I mean, you can see blood coming down his face.
On who?
Like, on Fox.
Oh, yeah.
He made the layup, and he just got smacked, and they no and one. And it was like, they were up. That put them up by like 4 or 5 with like 30 seconds left. They only ended up winning by 1. But, I mean, this thing with Curry, though, talking about the Warriors basketball, could they've got some tough games. They do have, after Christmas, a pretty decent stretch of home games that are winnable games. I don't know if he'll be back at that point. But they've got like a 7-game homestand that looks like that, could, probably going to be critical to them making the playoffs, those 7 games, what they do, because with or without Curry, they're going to need to win those games because the rest of this road trip doesn't look too good. I mean, Philly Friday night, and then they've got the Knicks and the Nets on back-to-back, and then they got one other game. So, I mean, they didn't they have an 0-for-6 road trip earlier this year? 0-for-7, 0-for-6, something.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors they're 2-12 on the road.
Yeah,
I mean, I faded them the last 2 nights. I covered against the Bucks and covered against the Pacers. I mean, it's like I'm betting against them on the road because they don't beat anybody on the road, and the spreads are tiny. The Pacers spread was 2.5. The Bucks spread was 3.5.
Do they win any of these next 5 games? Philadelphia, Toronto, New York, and Brooklyn, and then Memphis.
Yeah, I think they beat
Toronto or
now
New
they have
York?
no Steph.
That's what
So
I
I
mean.
think they probably beat the Knicks, but I would have before Steph went out, I would have said in that stretch they're going to beat the Knicks, they're going to beat Brooklyn, and they're going to win on Christmas against Memphis. Now I think they still potentially could beat Memphis on Christmas, maybe the Knicks, but I don't feel confident in saying any of it. Mikey 49er says, Larry, Dan, Ryan's not here today. He says, all you need to know is we appreciate you all, and you all all you bring to us on the show. Gotcha.
Thank
Well,
you.
we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody on the show. Once again, hit like and subscribe. That's going to do it for us. Go Niners. We're on in the post game. Danny will be there. Rye will be there. We might have a special guest or two along the way as well. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes into this live stream. Still 250 plus people hanging out in the room. Got a lot of people here today. Thanks to Kyle Posey. Thanks to you, Danny, for jumping in. You got a final thought on our way out the door here, Danny?
I would just say enjoy the game with your kids and your family. No, I think it'll be a fun game. Look, just the Niners put it away early because keep those guys healthy. And if they can win tonight, it's a huge, huge step for the Niners to have a much better shot at the Super Bowl because they win the division, and that allows you to rest key guys in the final 3 games. And it just makes a huge difference when a guy gets a week off this late in the season.
The coach donates $19.99. Says, hey, Larry, I got something for you. Steve Slowick. He's the guy who found Brock. I did hear Lynch say that this week, that Steve Slowick is the guy who pounded the table for Brock. And so definitely, Coach, thank you for the $19.99. I probably should slip it to Steve Slowick. Say, Steve, this is for you, not for me. Mike Wright says, love you guys. Thanks for the content. So yeah, join us tonight in the post game. We got this one from the coach. He says, Larry, see the super chat, bro? Yes, I did, Coach. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Join us in the post game tonight after the Niner game. 34-13 Niners. Book it. Danny, we will see you there.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to have.